College students today face a myriad of sources of pressure to do well in school, stay active socially, and get involved in campus life. However, recent trends in mental wellness indicate a growing number of students are facing additional challenges in incorporating invisible disabilities into their college experience. The issue is so permeating that Time magazine's Katie Riley recently documented several staggering statistics in her article, Depression on Campus. According to Riley's research, citing the Center for Collegiate Mental Health, there is a rapidly growing number of college students seeking mental health treatment on campuses, facing an unprecedented demand for counseling services. Riley furthered that the average university has one professional counselor for every 1,737 students, fewer than the minimum of one therapist for every 1,000 to 1,500 students recommended by the International Association of Counseling Services. Here at Seton Hall University, a population of an estimated 10,000 students must be divided among the Counseling and Psychological Services, or CAPS, 6 sole counselors. That is around 2,000 students per counselor. This is almost twice the recommended ratio according to the International Association of Counseling Services. We sat down with students from the university to get their take on CAPS services as well as their own journeys dealing with mental health in college.
I was going through a very tough time mentally, and I knew of CAPS, and I knew the therapy was free, it was open for all students, so I went up and they told me different options, like the group therapy sessions, but I was looking for more one-on-one. So spring semester last year, so spring semester of my junior year, I met with one of the therapists, school psychologists, once a week.
A couple of times I went to CAPS, but that was because I had a very difficult incident that happened in my freshman year, so I wanted to talk it through, but the 2 times that I went there, I didn't find it very helpful. I kind of just felt like I was ranting, and I could have just done that with my mom or like a close friend.
I've heard a lot of bad things about CAPS. I've heard a lot of, I made an appointment, they wouldn't make one for 6 months from now. I've heard I was waiting there forever. They told me I didn't have the issue I said I did. Stuff like that, like they just haven't been generally accommodating to what you actually need. So I just didn't feel like it was worth going.
I have no idea where CAPS is. I've never heard of like where to find them, and the only real reason I know about them is because they bring their dogs on the green, and I mean that's fun, but it doesn't help that much.
So what was your experience like when you went to CAPS? What was their strategy to help you with this concern?
It was good. I had a very calm school psychologist whose strategy seemed to be more just to ask questions and try and get me to talk things out. I think she sensed that I was a very heady, rational person, so she tried to gear me in the direction to kind of get into the emotional side of things. It provided me different perspectives on things, definitely, but it didn't really give me that breath of fresh air that I was looking for. I'm not really sure if any therapy can really do that, to be honest.
I find it's not very helpful to like try and talk to different people about what's going on, because then you have to reiterate the same things a million times, and that's just as exhausting as having the problem to begin with.
It was very frustrating because I would have to go to someone, tell my story, retell it again, and then tell it again to someone else who's different. And so I just felt like I was just spreading my history, and it wasn't, nobody was telling me what to do. They were just telling me what it was. And so I had to, unfortunately, figure that stuff all on my own. And I think that took a lot longer for me to try to heal, but I do find it more effective that I figured it out on my own, because there's maybe some deep emotional things that I can't express verbally that I feel, but I know that I know what I know. So yeah.
I would go if they seemed helpful, but I don't know, going to new therapists make me kind of nervous because I'm like so comfortable with my therapist at home, and explaining everything all over again is kind of uncomfortable. But if they make it more comfortable for me, then I don't think there'd be an issue. Seton Hall should definitely make like mental health issues a bigger, like, I don't know, just a bigger event on campus and make it more aware so people feel more supported and that they don't feel isolated and alone, because it can really affect like the way you are in school and like the way you perform in your work.
I had who I thought was a very close friend of mine. When I had first told him that I was hurting myself, like sophomore year, he pretty much threatened to leave me as a friend, saying, "You're so stupid, you should never do that, don't you think about how this affects me?" And that really scarred me, because like, I just wanted help. I didn't want to start a fight. And so after that, I learned that maybe some things shouldn't be told to everyone.
I remember I was at the movies with my younger brother, and the entire time during the movie I wasn't really paying attention to the plot. I was more just kind of trapped in my own head, that sort of thing. And it was just kind of going and going and going and going and going. And we left the movie theater, and we were driving home, and I just remember thinking like my younger brother was in the passenger seat next to me, but I was still heavily contemplating what it would be like to drive into a tree.
Senior year of high school, junior year, excuse me, there was a guy that was very infatuated with me, and I say infatuated because he called it love, but it wasn't. And he would send very lewd things to me, and at the time I thought it was just a friend thing to do. It was new, I never really had a relationship before, so I kind of just like went with it. And then he had texted me one time like, I fantasize about raping you. And so I didn't know what to say, and I kind of just played it off, and I was like, okay, you know. So and it just progressively got worse, because he would ask me to send him things, and he would word it in a way where he would say, you know, I'm just so depressed, it would just make me feel better. Eventually I realized how manipulative and toxic he was, and so I tried to leave him twice. The first time both times he threatened to kill himself, and both times he actually went through with it, which was really scary. The first time he tried hanging himself, and the rope broke apparently because I wasn't there, and so it didn't work. And then the second time he stabbed himself multiple times, calling me afterwards, and I remember very vividly hearing him breathing like he couldn't catch his breath. And it really scared me, and that was probably one of the most scarring incidences I've ever had in my life. And so I didn't tell my mom until last year, actually. So that was like 3 years ago that it happened, and she just stared at me and kept saying, "I'm so sorry, I wish I could help you." And so that scarring incident led to another scarring incident, because I never managed to heal. It just stuck in my head, me thinking that I'm a terrible person, not understanding what was going on.
People who would talk about me behind my back and create like group chats and use me as a way to just talk about me being a bad person because I had depression. It just pushed me over the edge, and it made me try to overdose. But luckily that didn't happen, and I got the help I needed by being sent to the hospital and being taken care of with counselors and therapists.
Having bipolar disorder with the highs and the lows made me a lot more empathetic towards other people, because even though if they feel it, sadness, like just a little bit, I know what that feels when it's bad. So even with the little pain that you feel, I can tell you, like, it's okay. This is what I do when it gets really bad. Here's how I can help you.
I think I've definitely become more like empathetic towards others. It's easier to understand when other people have issues, and just to be there for other people is a lot easier, because I feel I'm more understanding now after going through the whole process of being diagnosed with like mental illness.
I would say my life is different in the sense that it's just something that if you've never gone through it, you can never really empathize with it. You know what I mean? And it's really hard to get your head around what it must be like if you've never been through it before. And it's also weird because I think everyone's mental health issues are really different and specific to them. So, for instance, for me, my mental health has always been very heady physically, just very foggy-headed, that sort of thing, racing thoughts. And for some people, they're able to say, yes, that's exactly what I was going through. And then for other people, they say, no, mine was more of like a back-focused, that sort of thing, but I do still have the thoughts. And then if you have someone close who's never gone through that sort of thing, it's kind of hard for them to accept that sometimes the best thing they can do to help is just sit with you. So I've been in a situation where I've been in a really dark place, and whoever was with me, and they wanted to help, and they tried talking to me and everything, and it didn't work, which made both of us feel worse. And, it's sometimes hard for people to get that sometimes, at least for me, the best thing they could do for me was just to sit there with me.
Having anxiety on this campus specifically, I don't think there's a lot of support. I do think there is a lot of support depending on, the people that I'm with. Like, my roommate, she's a huge help. My close friends, they know, so they're always supportive. But other than that, I don't feel like there's anybody to talk to.
Do you feel like SHU empathizes with students with mental health issues?
I feel like they try to make, Seton Hall tries to make mental health issues aware on the campus, but they don't do the best job of it.
I wish they taught professors what to look for in students, because not everyone wants to go deal with CAPS completely and immerse themselves in getting that kind of help. Whereas they could just use a little bit of a boost and extensions, things like that from professors. So I wish that professors would look more for signs and just even ask their students, hey, are you having trouble? Is there anything I can do so you don't have to go to CAPS for accommodations?
Because I know I have a friend who works on campus that deals with a lot of anxiety issues. It sometimes prevents her from getting out of bed. So maybe, I don't know, maybe a program that helps you to distress. Maybe something CAPS can have, a little pamphlet that you can take if you don't feel brave enough to actually talk to someone, that gives you little advice, like how to manage schoolwork, because I think a lot of her stress comes from trying to balance work, trying to balance homework.
I think SHU empathizes to students with mental health issues to the best of their ability, and I think that's evident in CAPS and the different meditation techniques. But like I said before, anyone who hasn't gone through it, it's really hard to truly empathize. So, if someone who's never gone through it says, I'm really here for you and all that stuff, and that's all great and it's fine. But if, they're never going to know what we're talking about unless they've gone through it.
I think it'd be helpful if they could either just say, hey, I have someone right here on retainer for you to sit down with. They have a half an hour free or something like that. Just talk to them for a little bit. Or I think it'd be helpful if they provided some sort of online chat basis or a text messaging service, because personally I don't like to sit and talk to people about what's happening. I'm much more comfortable over text, where I don't have to, I think it's just looking them in the face and talking to them about it. It's just uncomfortable, and it makes me not want to discuss it. So if they had something where you didn't have to be in person and you could just text a crisis counselor or something, I think it'd be really helpful.
After examining the experience of Seton Hall students in the contents of National Collegiate Mental Health, the question remains, is there an interest on the part of universities to expand support and funding for the mental wellness of their students? Are universities willing to listen to their students and make the changes necessary to support their students' mental health?